Welcome to the Diesel Podcast presented by DFC Diesel. And welcome back to the Diesel Podcast. Can't believe how quick time has gone since we chatted last time about Ultimate Callout Challenge and your truck. And gosh, it's right around the corner. So I figured it would be really cool to reconnect with you and talk about 2026. So welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks, man. Yeah, excited to be back on. Excited to be competing again. We took the year off last year due to, some things going on in life. And, kind of it was sad to sit it out, but, glad we had a little more time to fit things in and make some changes and, move forward with the truck. So
For people who aren't familiar with you, or maybe they didn't catch our last episode, tell us about the truck. Tell us a little bit, like recap the last UCC you did, and then we'll kind of jump into some changes or updates or your focus here in 2026.
yeah, it's a 2006 Dodge Ram. It's orange, not red. That always comes up. It's a Freedom Racing Engines deck plate 6.7 liter Cummins 48 RE. Last UCC we were running a CM, an 849 ECU, but we changed that up this year. 2024 we competed for the second time and ended up just doing really well. We didn't expect to go and change the world or set the world on fire, but we just kind of like did what we knew we could do. We hit the drag strip pretty well. We ran like a 529. We went to the dyno hoping to make 2,200 horsepower and just whacked it pretty hard. Made 2,800. It kind of surprised everyone. Surprised me the most. It just turned out well. And then we went sled pulling and took first in sled pulling too. So it was like a first, second, first kind of placing and first overall. And it was just kind of a dream come true after being involved with it and watching every year and competing the 2 years. So it's just, it was a dream come true. I don't know if it ever gets better than that. I'm like, I joke with my family and friends, like it's all downhill from here. You know what I mean? It was like a bucket list item that just checked off,
Does it sort of transition into maybe consistently or consecutively trying to do it, like to be able to kind of string together some performances?
I'd like to place well, just kind of have a strong running, every year it is just getting more and more competitive. And it's like, how much deeper down the rabbit hole you want to go? You know what I mean? Like in 2024, we cut the front end up, rack and pinion, solid motor mounts, and then this year we went Motec ECU with hardware performance tuning, and we did like a billet transfer case and new sled pulling rear end and all that. And it's really hard to stay competitive. Like there's people running 125 mil plus chargers on their, turbo setup. And, we're still at the 106 and they're running, multiple 14 mils. It's just like, you got to keep dumping it in and, to make that 3,500, 4,000 horsepower, you just got to really be willing to lay it all on the line. We're seeing some pretty big numbers now and we know how competitive the landscape is. So like saying, yeah, we're going for first is, I don't know if I could say that confidently. You know what I mean? Like we've always been the consistent guys, and as unexciting as it sounds, we're just like trying to make strong numbers across the board and pan out well.
Is consistency really the key in something like this where you have so many competitive trucks? And sometimes like in the past when I would watch them, like you'd be looking at a truck, makes a ton of power, but it might have an issue, say drag racing, or something happens on the dyno. It seems like consistency is really the name of the game. And then recently, like I had Josh McCormick on last year, and like the number he's making, it's like there's this just a little bit more power in it, but the consistency is like the foundation of the performance.
Yeah, I think you have to consistently do well. There's like, the people that like really get hung up on the dyno and they just want to, they expect to blow up the engine on the dyno and then just, throw something in. Hopefully it's not pieced together. Hopefully they have a full standalone engine ready to drop in without any kind of like band-aids and weird stuff going on. But for us, we've always wanted to like get through the entire event with one engine. So we kind of always leaned a little bit more conservatively. We've always, this will be our third go round and we've never missed an event, right? Like we've never, not competed in sled pulling, drag racing or anything. We've always made it all the way through on the same engine, same turbos. We have had some tranny issues, but no breaks, more like open it up, kind of shifted weird, replace the clutches, put it back. So, you know, we've been fortunate in how we've competed. Yeah, I mean, I think to win, you got to be willing to like I said, lay it all out there. The dyno hit, we had bigger jets available. And I remember, everyone in my ear, especially like Ryan at Hardway, like put the biggest ones in there, man. And I'm like, these engines, we only run them at this event in the year. And, we probably do a couple of test hits. And, well, that's the way I do it anyways. I want everything as fresh as possible. And the last thing I want to do is just completely grenade the thing right there on, the first event that I perform in. So, there's a lot of other kind of outside things going on in my head where it's like, you want to still be able to run this engine, right? Or then you got those competitors where, nope, it's like, yep, this engine was here for UCC and we're going to blow it up here at UCC, So.
Hey, Diesel fans, our friends over at Kershaw Knives have a 20% off code for you. If you go to kershaw.kaiusa.com and use code 20TD8, FR26, you get 20% off your cart and free shipping over $50. So if you're in the market for a new EDC knife, something for hunting, fishing, around the job site, around the house, they've got you covered with a whole bunch of different choices for blade steel, blade shape, different opening mechanisms, different handle designs, and it's a great way to save some money and get some cool gear. Again, go to kershaw.kaiusa.com and use code 20TD8FR26 and get 20% off your cart and free shipping over $50. Something I thought is a really cool parallel between, like, say, a truck like yours and some of the other competitors out there. Like, to the average guy, that seems so far advanced and so far specialized with the parts, the build, the money. But I think you and them face a similar issue. And that issue is when you're putting together a truck, like, who do you trust to partner with? Whether it's with the engine, turbos, tuning, transmission clutches, shafts, like fluids, whatever it might be. Because I think the guy who's towing every day, he gets bombarded by sponsored ads, by Google AdWords, social media posts, and it's like, which do you trust? And I think that'd be a great way to kind of connect both ends of the diesel spectrum. So what do you and your team go through? I'm sure you did it, before UCC, but I imagine each year it comes up. Like, how do you pick the right partners for your truck?
For me, it's like I want to be associated and work with someone that is both technical and communicative. So like someone that I can talk to and will answer the phones and be a good person on the other end when I'm trying to, figure out a problem. And I also want to just like a trusted brand. And I've kind of established my ring of people, right? Like, I know who I go through torque converters. It's, DPC. I know I go through, Freedom Racing Engines for an engine package. I know I trust, Amsoil for my transmission fluid and my engine oil. I trust, I'm trying to think of DDP, Dynomite, anything. I'm like, if they sell it and their name's on it, I know it kind of sounds like I'm blindly trusting, but I have just established these relationships over the years where it's like, if their name's on it, I trust it. Dynomite, their injectors. If I'm like, hey man, I'm going to UCC, they're like, all right, we're going to send you something. And they're like, we're going to set you up with 400% overs. We've made bigger, we've made smaller, but this is what we'd run at UCC. And I'm just like, all right, we're going to run it. And it's just, having kind of, without talking about the negative experiences, I've had the good ones and I've kept the people with the good experiences. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how it's filtered out.
Did a lot of that start with, like, your business? You have a diesel shop, and like the experience being there and working on daily drivers and hot shot trucks and all that, and just getting a feel for all the different brands that are out there and how they communicate and how they service you?
Yeah, exactly. It pretty much starts with phone calls. Well, I'm a phone call person. I want to talk to someone, you know what I mean? So I'm going to call up a company and honestly, how they act on the other end, how the office person acts, and then how, when they transfer me to someone technical and how they talk to me, that's how I feel it out. Right. And then if they're, happy to talk to me and they're okay to get technical and tell me the details about what they plan on sending me and why, that's kind of what solidifies it for me. And the people I list are those kind of people, you know what I mean? Like they know the details, they know the product, and they, have a reason for why they're setting you up with what they're giving you.
Do you find for somebody who's on that other end of the spectrum, like using it in a daily driven capacity or for work, and they're trying to find companies to work with like that, like to kind of sidetrack a little bit, I did an episode the other day with a company. We were talking about fleets. And he was telling me about these fleet managers that have been around for 20, 30 years, and they're kind of set in their ways and they know what works and they have these favorite brands, right? And when we only have one truck, we don't have that kind of experience. We're not dealing with 10, 20, 200 trucks and get to see everything. I think it's easy to make mistakes when it's doing that. So what are a couple tips you would give someone if they're looking to make their truck run better or looking to find, it could be a maintenance part, it could be oil, it could be an air filter. What should they look for when they're calling around or looking at a website or emailing and communicating with different companies?
I mean, I'm a big data person, right? So I like looking for the data. If they've got, comparative testing from other manufacturers, I like charts, I like numbers. I don't like stage two. I like 63 millimeter, 68 turbine. You know what I mean? Like I like comparing things in that sense where there's numerical values. So when I look at, manufacturers and they give values and they compare it to other people, they don't have to list the other people. But I and a lot of the time you can say, oh, they put brand X, Y, and Z, and just based on the colors, you could tell who they compared it against, right? So,
Yeah.
um, but like that's kind of what I lean towards. And then I always, like I said, pick up the phone and call people and just kind of feel them out. You can kind of tell when someone's trying to smoke you, or like give you an answer they don't really understand the thought logic behind. So, um, as for like what to do with your vehicle, treating it right, like I'm more of a preventative maintenance person. I like to inspect and check things before there's an issue. I know you could probably spend more money than you want, but maybe do it more so on the proactive side than the reactive. If that steering linkage is starting to feel a little sloppy, maybe check it out and replace the ball joints or the tie rods before it's too late. Or, maybe make that oil change a little more sooner than waiting for the recommended value, or the oil filter at least, injectors. So like injectors and torque converters, I do this a lot. Like before going to UCC, I send my injectors out to get retested and calibrated before even competing. My torque converters, they both work fine. I just went racing on them, but guess what? I want two fresh torque converters for UCC, so I'm gonna get them cracked open and sent back before it causes any other issues. Same thing, I mean, that just goes for a lot of like components like U joints. I like to show up with fresh parts that are, likely to be wear items or sacrificial parts, clutches, oil, injectors, all that stuff that just has limited time, especially competing at the level that we're at. But even on your daily driver, you don't have to do it like almost, once a year like I do, but just to stay on top of that maintenance interval is key.
I like how you mentioned the data because sometimes I see something and it says like flows more air. I'm like, cool, how much more air? Or
Yeah.
drops temps. Well, how much? Like, how much are the temps dropping? Like, I kind of need a value, you know?
Yeah. And yeah. And you gotta be work, kind of, you gotta look a little deeper into some of those, like, okay, it flows more air than stock, but is stock sufficient? And I mean, there's been a couple of things where, you know, that has popped up in the industry where it's like, oh, you know, it, flows this much more fuel. And it's like, well, does it need to flow that much more fuel? Or, you know what I mean? It's just kind of critical thinking.
I was going to ask you about the like engine oil and analysis because that's something that the last couple of years I've really gotten kind of educated on is the importance of that. So I imagine with that Freedom Racing engines, that's probably a big part of what you do. Maybe in the off season or downtime is just sending off a sample, seeing if there's any sort of abnormalities, in the wear or anything like that, just to stay on top of it.
Yeah, and we've actually done that. We've got the the oil test results back, and I was kind of blown away because I've never done that before. But you know, the last couple times we have, and you could even tell if you know your shop rags are dirty, right? There's particulate counts, there's like fiber counts, there's you know, if you run coolant, we've seen that. We don't run coolant anymore, so we got rid of that problem. But you know, and just getting that kind of like breakdown of, you know, what, you know, the soot content, or like, you know, how much, you know, fuel is in your oil. So um in our truck, we, you know, we run things a little bit looser, you know, so you get a little more like contamination in the oil pretty easily, you know, all that extra fuel, all that, you know, a little more extra ring gap, etc. But you know what that comes down to is, can you use an oil that will handle those kind of contaminants and still provide the lubricity that you need? And that's kind of why we don't skip on oil. We, you know, we make sure we get the best we can. And that's always been the Amsoil, right? The competition diesel. And we put it through the ringer a lot. So like, kind of one of the things that happened to us a couple of weekends ago is our truck um, is solid, right? There's no water jackets, there's no coolant. We don't even have an oil cooler on the thing, unfortunately. It's just a dry sump pumping through the block and then goes to an oil tank. And we kind of got caught in some hot runs in the drag strip where they were running us every like 45 minutes, and that truck just does not cool down very well. And we were in Arizona, and you know, we were getting the temps up, you know, 190, 200 degrees, and we were still back in the staging lanes. You know, I think we got it down to like 150, 160, but with, you know, fans and ice. But we just kept running it back to back, and that's just faith in the product, right? That's like, you know what, we trust the product. We hope that everything's going to look good, and the truck just runs great. So it's like some of those things where if you're running just oil, it's a good idea to run the right oil. You know what I mean? Don't be going down to your local grocery store and throwing something knockoff brand in there.
It's so important with from two different perspectives, like the cost and investment and the time that you have in that truck, in that engine for this performance, but then also in a truck that you would use for making money or operating a business or something like that. It's so easy, number one. And then two is the longevity is what everybody wants with a diesel truck. I think it's probably one of the main reasons they buy one, to use them, you know, daily, is the torque and the longevity of it. So it definitely makes sense. I wanted to step back for a second with like Ultimate Call Out Challenge and ask you a question. Is what does it do for you, like personally, and then also with business, to be able to, you know, go across the country, take this vehicle you invest a lot of time and money into, and be around other people who are as driven as you are, who have spent this time to build their trucks for this one day? Like what is that like? Is it all just straight competition? Is there a little bit is there camaraderie? Are there rivalries? Like what is that side of it like?
Yeah. So UCC for me has always been like about the build. I like building a really cool truck, or like making things modular and fit together, and being able to break down between drag racing, sled pulling, and dyno, right? And having some sort of logical thought process on that build. Um, Going to UCC is really cool because you get to see all the other people that you usually just kind of watch on Facebook or Instagram, right? Like here in California, we don't have this level of diesel performance. You know, especially in like Northern California. So kind of like what I've got going on in the area is kind of like top tier. And if you want to see better than what something like that I got, you got to go to the East Coast. You got to go to UCC. You got to go to some of the other racing circuits. You know, from a drag racing perspective, and you know, sled pulling, we got some good sled pulling here, but nothing like you see on the East Coast. You know what I mean? So Ultimate Call Out Challenge is kind of an opportunity to see, you know, that higher epsilon of like of diesel performance. So especially like all the boosts, all the vendors, like new transmission housings, new pulling axles, new turbocharger setups, like just the vendor booth setup is cool. And seeing all the trucks where people are that committed to go to, you know, the top of the pyramid and put everything, life, like time, money, resources, everything they've got into this, because that's what UCC takes. If you're going to compete at UCC and you want to go and be, a top contender, you're giving up a lot. And I have mentioned that, and I have a full-time job, and then the shop thing's like a side hobby. Like I sell stuff, I sell custom parts, but I've got a full-time job, and I've got 2 kids, and a wife, and they need time, and UCC is just a sink of resources, time, and money. You know what I mean? So it is a big bite to chew.
Is that maybe one of the hardest aspects to it is balancing all the different parts of life to build this truck and then haul it to
Oh
Indiana?
yeah, oh yeah. And it is like everyone, trying to get it all together is a huge life balance, and you want to accept help from people. People are in the diesel industry, like, hey, we'll help you with this and that. And the thing is A, you don't want to let them down, right? There's that, like, me, I want to go out there and I want to represent people well. And B, like, you want to give them their value back, right? And that means competing at this level. So you can't pull out. You are now committed, right? People have invested in you, and you have to go forward. And that's something where I talked about last year, I had like a family thing come up, and I had to pull out. And those were some of the toughest phone calls I had to make, where I had to just tell people, hey, I can't do it this year. And honestly, the reactions kind of showed the people I was working with even more so, right? They were super understanding. Don't worry, we'll do it next year, et cetera. But it's still like, I kind of felt that weight, you know what I mean? But, um, working with the best in the industry, they've kind of seen it all. So, I really appreciate their supporting through thick and thin.
Is this truck and competing with it, is it an outlet for you? Is it like an escape, something that maybe not where you lose yourself, but you kind of find yourself, but it kind of takes you out of the daily elements and maybe a career, and you have this whole other thing where you can just invest passion and vision and the competitive side and just kind of escape reality in a way and invest it into this
Yeah.
truck.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, like, I it has only gotten more and more serious, because the more time I have put in, the more the truck has given back, and it's a give and take, right? Like, the more I invest, the more, the truck performs, the more people see it. And then it just becomes like part of your identity almost. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
you start getting to the point where people don't know who you are, but they know the truck, right? They know, that's the orange truck or whatever. And it's great to have the following, and but at the end of the day, I'm just doing what I really like to do, and that's just design and build things, and like to see a project come together. I mean, me as a person, I do that for a living. I'm an engineer, but what I like to do is just build and make stuff. Like, I pretty much GC'd my house when we built our house. I did, our septic system, gas, everything, concrete. I like building trucks. I like building fish ponds. I like building, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just a builder. And the racetrack thing is probably just more of what I'm known for, because it's pretty successful. And it's just made a hit in the industry. But yeah, that's kind of like what I like doing. That, and you know, my wife and I like to go out and socialize and hang out with our friends. We're blessed to have a lot of friends in this area. We're both from Santa Rosa, California, and live here, and or grew up here. So we've got a lot of family in the area. But besides that, it's racetrack is life, pretty much.
I don't remember if I asked you this before when we talked last time, but what what drew this desire to build and put something together to diesels? Because there's so many other platforms that are out there to go faster to compete, right?
I know. I talk to my buddy about this all the time. Like, why couldn't I have? So it was my first truck. It was a 24 valve, a second gen Cummins, and that's what just set the hook. And like my buddy and I were joking, like, why couldn't it have just been like an LS gas powered truck or something? Because it's so much cheaper. It's so, I mean, to an extent, right? The parts are more available. Like, you know, for the longest time, all the diesel stuff was everything was so custom. We didn't
Yeah.
have major manufacturers making all these parts for us. And I mean, it's still pretty expensive compared to the gas stuff, but um, you know, that's where it all started. It was just happened to be my first vehicle.
I think one of the things that pulled me into it is I didn't start interested in diesel. I started in other things that like LS stuff first, and then it was like gas trucks and everything. But it was the utility, the ability to have something that made good power, could tow, you could off road in it if you wanted to, and then you could just daily drive it. And in the back of your mind, you thought I could drive this for 300,000, 400,000, 700,000 miles, and it just combined everything. And I think that's like the part of UCC that really stands out to me is it's not just building a drag truck or a sled pulling truck, it's doing these different things. So it kind of combines that utilitarian kind of viewpoint of it where it can do a little bit of everything.
I 100% agree. I think that's like one of the coolest thing about a diesel truck, right? You still get like good fuel mileage while still rocking 1,000 horsepower while still towing an excavator
Yeah.
around. Um, and I think you're onto something because that's kind of the attraction of UCC for me, right? It's like I like being able to put it through everything. And 5, 10 years ago when I started looking into doing this, everyone told me I would have to pick at some point, right? You're either a drag racer or you're a sled puller. It can't be both. And just over the years of UCC, people have shown that you can do both pretty well. Yeah.
Maximizing power, reliability, and efficiency begins with clean diesel fuel. That's why fast fuel systems remove air and vapor up to 99% of water and filters debris down to 2 microns. This alone can triple the life expectancy of your fuel system while also restoring lost power and efficiency. Whether you have a diesel pickup truck or commercial vehicle or anything in between, there's a fast fuel system for your rig made right here in the USA. Visit fastride.com to find the perfect fuel system upgrade for your truck. Like one of the coolest things, you probably agree with it, and maybe not with this truck, maybe it was a little bit earlier in its evolution, but you take it to a drag strip, you go out there, you just destroy stuff, you go back, air up the tires, and you drive it home, and then you could take it, maybe change the tires, depending on what your setup was, but then take it to work the next day. And I think when you see stuff trailered there and your truck is faster than it, it's like it warms the soul a little bit, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the
Oh
really
yeah.
cool aspects of it.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing like going on the freeway with your, four-door pickup truck and a vet just tries to pass you and you just, roast them on the highway. You know what I mean? That was honestly like I miss it. My truck used to be daily driven. I had a 6375, 63 mil to 75 millimeter Borg Warner units and some small DDP injectors and dual pumps, and it was making 850 to the tire. And I towed everything with that. I drove it around, built transmission obviously, but that thing just hauled. You know what I mean? Just anywhere, light up the tires. People are doing that with 1,000 horse now, but like it was so dependable. I drove that to Tahoe, which is high altitude. I drove it, towing anything I wanted, and I just miss those days, right? Just being able to, the horsepower was at will anywhere you were driving. You know,
As an enthusiast, what do you think of that? Because like we remember the days of like magazine covers was like 1,000 horsepower daily driver, right? Well, now people do it
yeah,
so easy, and it's like a 1,500 horsepower daily driver, and people don't really raise their eyes and go, "Wow, that's really cool." I think until you get like over 2,000, and then now people pushing it to 3 and 4, and even farther than that. Like, how do you keep that enthusiasm for the daily driven 850 horsepower truck when all the people you watch in social media is showing you stuff in 2,000, 3,000,
yeah,
4,000?
yeah. It's the social media inflation, man. I hate it too. Just like it's like, oh, 3,000 is almost not even that cool anymore for the biggest guys. You know what I mean? And it's like, come on, man. And like the daily drivers, like, oh, you got to have 1,000 horsepower daily driver. Like, have you driven 1,000 horse? Like, 90% of the world has not driven 1,000 horsepower, or even 850 is like, it's fun and it's
Yeah.
wild. Like, you know what I mean? I like 850. That was plenty for me. 1,000 would have been pretty wild. But it's just so easy now. I don't know. Like I think the internet has really helped us all out, or just made it easier to do, right? Everyone knows the secret combinations now. And I'm just seeing, I don't know, younger and younger kids, like 18 years old, with 1,500 horsepower setups. I'm like, wow, that is insane. And I mean, I'm sure my dad and his dad were thinking the same about me. But it's just funny how much horsepower everyone's making now so soon in the game. You know, I think the internet has like really helped, like, oh, you just need a 14 mil pump, a 72 millimeter charger, and you're making 1,000 horsepower with, some 300% overs or whatnot. Like the Fast 72 class that we're putting on, or that UCC is putting on this year, like a lot of those trucks are making over 1,000 horsepower with a 72 millimeter charger, and it's just crazy how far we've come.
It's funny when you mention that because my dad had a 7.3 Power Stroke and I had a 6.7 Cummins, and I'd say, "Hey, aren't you going to do anything to that?" And he'd had it. He bought it new and it was like 7, 8 years old. He's like, "Nope, tows my trailer just fine. Starts every day. Don't got to worry about it." And he's like, "Why are you putting all that stuff on your truck?" And I'm like, "I don't know, like because I can. Like it's kind of fun." And like they looked at
Yeah,
it different. It tows fine. It gets good fuel economy. It starts every time. That's all I need. And then the younger generation was like, it's Cummins. I got to get 600, 700, 800 horsepower. I got to do this kind of stuff to it. And I think that just progresses to where now that entry level power number, like to me, 1,000 seems aggressive for the street. But there's probably people that
yeah,
are laughing at me right now because they're like, no, it's not. But to me, it does. And it's just how that has changed over the years. And I think that's a testament to the companies and the parts and the tuning. Like
yeah.
EFI Live on those 607s, or what you're doing with Motec and that kind of stuff. Like it's just crazy what it's allowed us to do.
Oh yeah, man. Like back in the can tuner days, like, yeah, you didn't want 1,000 because it was terrible to drive. You know what I mean? It was just like smoke coming out. All the values were maxed, and it was just on or off. So, um, oh yeah. Um, Trying to think of anything I want to talk about specifically for UCC, or about the truck. Um, I don't know. Have you seen the lineup yet? Have you seen who's coming?
I've seen a few, but not the full lineup.
I have seen. So I went on the website. Now I'm just crawling the website, right? Like I want to see who's on there. Um, Looks like we got some of the older, people that have competed in the past. We've got some newer guys. Um, I'm just, I'm excited to see some of the new setups. Like some of them are really cool. If you've been following, like Cody Hawk, truck looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Duramax looks like it's just completely built top to bottom. Almost looks like a tube chassis. And then you got Meyer from Power Driven. That thing is like a go kart. It's all tube chassis, damn near, and he's running fours. And also, I think, dude, uh, Logan or Logan Epling's listed. I don't know if he's coming back. I even saw Justin Ziegler's name on there, which is like, if that guy's bringing Diana running 450s, we're all in trouble.
It's there's so many. It can be kind of like overwhelming, like this time of year, just to like do podcasts and talk with all the different racers because they change so much and there's so much jump in technology that happens like year to year that happens. It's just like the Super Bowl every year, but even like better than the Super Bowl because you kind of know what to expect, like with sports. But this, it's just that bar keeps getting pushed farther and farther, and just how competitive it is. Like I've had Cody on, and he's talked with me about his Duramax, and I mean that's really cool. And some of the other people out there, and then like your truck. It's an awesome time to be able to cover it, and then just sit back and watch and just see like what happens. There's always like some sort of drama on the track, or something happens or it's super tight at the end and who's going to get pull those couple extra feet, and it's a really exciting time.
Yeah, I hope like because we had like a when we in 24, we like rained on Dyno Day. You know what I mean? And they were like putting the tent up. And then I've had, drag race days where it rained. The weather in Indiana is just terrible every time. It's never good. It's either blazing hot or like monsoon, like I don't know, super much, a bunch of rain. But um, yeah, I don't know. I'm wondering if we're gonna see a big horsepower number. I don't know if we're gonna hit a 4,400 though. I think that's a high altitude thing, but we might be hitting a 36, 37. I want to see that. What do you think?
I mean, maybe. I mean, I had Josh on not long ago. We were talking about that, and like, in my mind, I'm like, well, is the engine going to handle it? Like, what kind of turbos are you using? He's like, it's the tires, man. Like, I got to find tires that'll like hold this kind of power. Like, that's the challenge, and I'm not sure if they're out there or not, or if he found them, but that just completely took me off guard to think, man, it's exceeding like what these tires can do. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
isn't that wild? I
Yeah.
mean, I thought these are meant for like top fuel cars. Some of these, tires, but I don't know if it's the knurling or the instant. I mean, I don't know. You'd think that'd be like right up the same design kind of alley as what they do on the drag strip, right? Like
Right.
instant acceleration and stuff. But I don't know what's causing it.
I'm kind of like you though. Like what really impresses me is when I see the consistency. Like, yeah, that top number is really cool, but I appreciate the consistent performance a bit more. Like that gets me more excited, and I'm trying to like when I look at the lineups and I look at the trucks, and maybe I've talked with the owner on the podcast, maybe I haven't. Is I think, well, who's going to be the most consistent? Because to me, that's like the hardest. It's the hardest thing in anything in life is just being consistent. But especially with a truck with unknown variables, the weather, sometimes there's just a mechanical issue with a truck or a fuel pump or an injector or a turbo or just there's so many variables into it. So when something performs consistently, that's what really jumps out to me. I'd say more so than the big number or the fast time. It's like how they do in all the different sets of the event.
Yeah. I mean, that consistency is key, but dude, if you can smack a dyno number on dyno day, like at UCC, the event's yours. If you can get, like they have like a points calculator online, and if you can hit 36, 3,800, like you're gonna have to be getting like a mid four and like a super insane sled pull to keep up with that. It's pretty heavy. Like I feel like the dyno has the biggest opportunity to make the points.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, it's not unfortunate because everyone comes. I feel like the most publicity comes from the dyno and the biggest explosions, right?
I was gonna say that'll get you like social media, YouTube famous, depending on how much what you make.
100%. And I feel like this is one reason why I don't have like a huge media following is because I don't have the big explosions or the huge dyno smacks. So I think there's a lot of followers to be made if you're willing to blow it up.
But do you want the followers and do you want like the clicks on YouTube or Instagram, or do you want the finished result? That's probably a big temptation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And to me, I'm like, I just want to build it once kind of guy. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I don't like like people are like, oh, just get a new engine, right? Blow it up. For me, my truck, I put a lot of time into the details on my truck. And if I blow it up, it's not going to be just the block, right? It's the fiberglass that's painted inside out. It's the frame rails. It's the firewall that I just made a nice template for. It's just a lot of time, and then I associate that time with trying to get it back with time away from the family and time. You know what I mean? Like I kind of like building it once, making it run good, hopefully reliably, and then using it and then parking it. You know what I mean? Um,
What would you say? We can have it be about your truck, but I think maybe some of the principles you talk about will apply to somebody with a build that they're doing, like a street truck. What's key to avoiding that temptation of just sending it, throwing a bit more fuel at it, a bit more timing, a bit more air. Like, how do you hold yourself back from doing that to keep that consistency?
See, I've always tried to build in balance, right? I'm not going to just go get 500% overs and leave the turbocharger stock, right? I've always kind of liked building things that are matched. You know what I mean? Like, you get your, I don't know, 100% overs and your, yeah, I can't, your 66, 480 kit, or you know what I mean? Like maybe I don't have the match right now, but like match your airflow and your fuel, right? Match your transmission with your horsepower. Match, you know what I mean? Like have a goal and build a recipe around it. Don't just like throw the biggest injectors you can and then leave the stock turbocharger in there, right? Like I'm I've always tried to keep it all balanced, you know what I mean? So that you're working comfortably within the product's like performance range, I guess you would say. If you want 800 horsepower, build 1,000 horsepower setup and dial it back and get 1,200 horsepower rated injectors, pull the duration back. The only time I've usually found things are ugly is when you're like stretching like pulse width on injectors, or like you are adding way more timing to try to make a couple more horsepower. You know what I mean? It's just the efficiency goes out the window. You might get a couple more horsepower, but things just are ugly and they don't run right. So it's just got to have that number in mind, and then I would dial back or have the number and build more, build 30% more on everything.
Do you think
That
people
safety factor.
do you think they get tempted because it comes down to one of two things? It's either the competition that day and they're wanting to win, or we talked about like the Insta fame or like the like YouTube short fame, and you're just like, let me add a little bit more.
Yeah.
Is that what tempts people to do that, do you think?
Oh, 100%, right? It's like, how cool would it be if it survives? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or, you know, I I've had a couple of, friends that fell victim to that. A buddy of mine, or my truck was down and he wanted to compete, and I went there to support him. Jordan, if that's you listening, I'm talking about you. So he like we brought him up to Oregon to compete, and I was like, let's do it. And we did drag racing and we did dyno. I was helping him out, helping him with spraying the truck, kind of getting him up there, making good numbers. And we did a whole day of drag racing and dyno. And we're like, all right, time to drive 13 hours home. And he goes, oh, they're gonna do a burnout competition. I said, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And I walked away, and I came back to the truck because we're all supposed to be loading up and heading home. And we hear this loud explosion,
Oh
and
no.
it's his rods are on the ground.
Oh.
He went and competed anyway, and just the whole bottom end came out on his truck, dude. It was just like sitting there on the rev limiter and just grenaded it. And we had to load it up, not under its own power, and like it was just a disaster. But to his, benefit, or I mean, to give him credit, he did find a junkyard engine and get one back in there pretty fast. But just a lot of extra work for. He got a trophy.
That was always my biggest fear. Like you jogged a memory of mine, and when I started in this industry, as like working the phones and stuff, and the guys had a little downtime in the back, and I wanted to dyno my truck. I wanted to see what it made, and they're like, "Oh, we'll pull it back there. We'll do it for you." And I'm there on the phones, and I hear it going on the dyno, right? And I'm like, "Damn, that sounds really good." And then it's quiet for a little bit, and one of the guys walks in. He's like, "Man, I'm so sorry, dude. You got to come see this." And they took some like old rod parts and just threw them under my truck. And I felt my heart sink because I'm like, man, I just threw the rods through the block. I'm on the phone talking to people. What am I going to do for an engine? They're like, oh, we're just kidding with you. We just like threw those on the on the ground to mess with you. But that was always my biggest fear, was like spitting rods out
Yeah,
when I'm not ready for it. Like ideally, I'd like to avoid it and just build it, but just kind of pushing that envelope, or pushing that line, where it's safe versus not safe.
oh yeah. I mean, like that's UCC too. Is like you want to test as close to and get prepared to as close to you're gonna hit, but at the same time, you don't want to put all that extra stress on the engine. Michael Brown just went to like Firepunk and put down 2,600 horsepower on their dyno. We're weeks out from the event, and it's like that's a gamble. That's you just stressed everything, right? You now have a like pretty dialed setup where you just increase the jet size, but you just there's fatigue going on, right? You just fatigued a lot of stuff. So there's that gamble of like we found the recipe and we know like exactly what we're going to do now, but we kind of fatigued some parts. So yeah, you just never know what you're going to get now.
I imagine that's a very delicate balancing act between the fatigue, which in my mind, I think about nearly everything like that. Not even just
Yep.
automobile stuff, but anything mechanical, I think about it. But then also being able to say, well, I need to know it's consistent. I'd rather find it here on this day in this shop than find it out on the track at UCC. So how do you find that balance between the two?
Oh yeah, I know, and that's something like I try not to go to extra events. I try not, I'm like the dyno day for us last year, it was a complete guess, or the last time we competed was a complete guess. We had never run that dyno tune. This year it's going to be Motec controlled, but still, it's like how big of a jet, how big of when do you ramp it in? What RPM? What So it's like it's it's probably an educated guess working with some of the bigger people in the industry, but at the same time, my truck has never done it. My nitrous routing, my exact injectors, my turbo kits, my
Yeah.
turbocharger ARs, like everything's going to be different. Um, so it's a guess.
And it's I'm excited for this year. It was really cool to chat with you and kind of break down not just the truck, but some of the other aspects of it and the build philosophy. I'm really excited for it. It was cool to chat with you. I would love to do another one with you, maybe after UCC and connect like the pre-discussion we had to the post, see how everything, kind of worked out. But it's always a cool time chatting with you, Ken. I appreciate, your time this afternoon chatting with me. Best of luck at Ultimate Call Out Challenge, and I'll be watching, I'll be following it, and love to be able to connect with you after it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I look forward to it.
Don't forget, Diesel fans, make sure and head on over to kershaw.kaiusa.com. Use code 20TD8 FR26 to get 20% off your order. Kershaw's got a whole lineup of knives to meet any budget that you might have, whether it's a new knife for EDC, hunting, fishing, something around the job site, around the house. They've got you covered with a bunch of different choices for blade steel, blade shape, different handle designs, opening mechanisms, and you also get free shipping over $50. So we really appreciate them offering that discount code just for Diesel Podcast listeners. Also want to give a shout out to some of our Patreon supporters, Robert, John, TSW Diesel, all of our other Patreon supporters, all of you who follow us on social media. We appreciate all your support here in year 10 of the Diesel Podcast and look forward to bringing you more of the content that you want to hear in 2026. Till next time, keep the shiny side up.